Hello and welcome back to the Faith and Culture Show. I'm Catherine Camp, your hostess for the show. This is where we begin to equip ourselves by learning how to engage our culture with conversations that count, conversations with an eternal perspective. And my two guests today have done just that. They've learned how to engage themselves with our culture and bring a heads up to what's going on. We've had so many things happened in our world in the last 4 years, and Jaime and Robert have done something about it. You've probably heard about them, Banners for Freedom. And I am so excited and honored that they would take some time out of their super busy schedule to come and talk to us about what they've been up to and how they came to just take some time off of their everyday busy lives, raising their children, to do ministry for God. And I think that they are an inspiration for all of us. Hi, Robert and Jaime. I'm so excited that you're here today. I'm just grateful to God that I got to meet you all in the way that I did. And you responded when I tried to reach out to you all in the very beginning. Before you even did your first show in San Antonio with Clay Clark and his tour that he's on. But please just tell the audience a little bit about yourselves and what moved you to get into the ministry that you are doing today.
Sure. Well, first, it's great being on here again with you. It's been too long. We see you got a new intro.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Very well
great job.
done. Yes.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. And I think the last time we saw you was at First Landing.
Yes.
That's right. Almost a year ago.
It's coming up again.
Almost a year ago.
29th. They're doing another one.
Yes. Are y'all going to be there?
No, we would like to be. Lord willing, if something changes, we'll be there. But
well,
I'm not
it's
sure
a long way. It's okay.
It is. We've been doing a lot of traveling over the past 2 years. So,
Yeah.
I know. So tell the people who have not heard about you, because this isn't something you've been doing. You had normal lives. You had a business. Maybe you still do. I don't know, how you've transitioned and all of that. But I think that if people hear your story, I want to encourage other people to start stepping up, because truly we are running out of time. We're running out of time to warn people about what's coming, helping people come to Christ if that's the situation in front of us. But that means that we have to step out of the pews of our churches and get busy. So tell everyone how this started for you.
Well, I think a lot of it was due to that point you just made. Is we're running out of time. The time is short, and we really felt like there was a responsibility on us to do something, but we didn't know what that something was, and we didn't know really what we were capable of, or you tend to question yourself a lot. Like what can I do? What can one person do or one couple do, and can we really make a difference? And you're always I think maybe I was just speaking for myself. Your worst enemy when you try to motivate yourself. But then, when you think about it, it's not about you. It's about Him and what He can do through you, right? And if He's for you, who can be against you? So, this was a journey that was several years in the making. When Jaime and I first got together, and we found the Lord together and got saved together and filled with the Holy Spirit together, and that changed everything. And there was a period of finding ourselves again and finding our relationship with God, and a time of maturing. And then 2020 happened, and we're like, oh boy, here we go. We were sort of waiting on something like this to happen. We've been kind of paying attention to a lot of folks out there talking about some possibilities of what certain agendas are to come. And when it happened, when the pandemic, I'll try to be careful here, we got rolled out. We looked at each other and said, what can we do? what is our role? What is our responsibility? And we went to a Reawaken conference, and General Flynn encouraged everybody to get involved on a local level. And we get back here. Some folks are talking about our county commissioners, and it was due to some property. What do you call permitting issues, and like, oh, we'll go down there and have a conversation about that with everybody else, because it's not just us, right? It's everybody else going there. Well, when we showed up, we realized that we were there for a different reason, and there was another conversation that needed to be had about the truth behind what was taking place in 2020. We all know what rolled out then,
right?
Well, one thing led to another. After speaking at these county commissioner meetings, Jaime came home and said, "Babe, I saw a billboard in town, and I feel like the Lord highlighted it. I feel like we're supposed to put a message up on this billboard." And I thought she was crazy, because that just seems way too big for us. And we never done anything like that. I'm a general contractor, run my own general contracting business, trying to manage all that. She's stay-at-home mom. She helped me manage that business as well, and taking care of things, the homestead. And like, billboards, that's just. But, after talking about it and her reminding me they're coming after the children, it was like, okay, we can do this. We should do this. We have to do this. It's our duty to be watchmen and to, make sure our brothers and sisters out there are aware of some of these things. So anyway, we put up this message, and it was the VARS data right off the Health and Human Services.gov website. Just trying to educate people on what possibilities could be if they got involved in this this rollout of the thing, right? So little did we know that was going to turn into, from one billboard to hundreds of billboards all across the nation, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars, speaking at Reawaken conferences, and being a part of something way bigger than we thought we could ever achieve. And in reality, we couldn't have done it without him. And so it wasn't something that we just did. It was, we talked about it, we prayed about it, we asked the Lord to bless it, and he showed up in miraculous ways.
And I think I want you to continue on, but I want to interject here to just say, you didn't know it, but you were responding to many of us who were getting frustrated because we had no way of getting the word out. Every time we posted something on Facebook, Instagram, whatever media people were using, it was getting taken down and censored. And some of us had our accounts closed because we would mention the facts, the scientific reality that these things were killing people, harming people, some of them permanently damaged for life. And it was frustrating. It was like, what can we do? And many of us started thinking a billboard. But as you said, that's way out of the reach of many people because billboards can get expensive. So it's so beautiful how God works. He tapped you on the shoulder. He said, you guys do this. And you did. You were obedient. And then you were able to get funding for everything. So I just wanted to interject there because only God knew how many of us were sitting back going, what do we do? I'd like to see a billboard up because maybe that's the only way we can get the word out without being censored.
It definitely wasn't a unique idea, was it?
No, it wasn't. And I think there was lots of prayers that were answered through that. And, it wasn't us. Like, yeah, we were able to facilitate it, but, that was the Lord too, being able to, have the time to actually do it. Like he said, he used to own a general contracting business, and like all the jobs at the right time kind of just stopped so that he could, put that aside and move forward with Banners for Freedom.
No, I didn't put it aside. I didn't have a choice.
Well,
like the Lord shut those doors. Every job that I had going on stopped at the same time, and jobs I was about to get, they all fell through. It was like, okay, I hear you. I think. And I was like, you want me to focus on this? And this was like all in the first 2 weeks, right? We went from putting up this one billboard in our small town of Bonham, it was $800. So it's pretty much all that we had. And we're like, we're just going to do this, make this sacrifice. And that's an important thing right there, because, without a sacrifice, you can't have a blessing. There has to be a sacrifice put up in some way before God will bless whatever it is that you're looking for. And I think because of that sacrifice, it moved on. And the sacrifice of that was a lightning bolt that sounded like it struck right outside of our
Oh,
house.
lightning. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
While that happened, are you all able to speak up a little bit? Because I'm having just a hard time hearing you.
Oh, yeah. Is that any better?
No.
Here, let me go to my settings and see if I can adjust my audio. Well, it's showing it's all clear.
It's going full blast. Okay.
Oh, let me turn off automatically adjust mic volume. Turn this up. How's that? Any better?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. There was some setting in there.
Okay.
Well, let's see. It went so quickly from putting up this first billboard to these interviews that happened immediately, to being asked to come down to a Reawaken conference and speak in front of 4,000 people and present this. And that's when we realized it wasn't, just our idea. There were so many people that came up to us at the very same thing that you just said, Catherine, that they were thinking this, but they just didn't know how to facilitate it. They didn't have the funds. They didn't, there were so many different reasons why they couldn't do it. And they're like, but God has answered our prayer, and he's made a way. And all we have to do is donate to this mission, and we can be a part of it, and we can all make this happen. So that's really how it happened. All the people came together. Right, the army of the Lord came together. They took their loaves and fish and put them in the basket, and God just multiplied it. It was absolutely incredible.
That was a beautiful way to explain it. And not only that, Robert, what did you had something, a skill that God knew about, where you could make this a little bit less expensive, because what? You're a designer.
Well, so yeah, not just a general contractor, but was a graphic designer, and
Yes.
had the programs to do it. And she knew that too. She goes, "Babe, you can just design a little graphic on your Photoshop equipment over here." And
there you go.
Well, yes, I can. And so we pretty much we had the abilities to do everything right here. To design all the artwork, to design the website. There had some experience with that, and she had experience in helping manage all the details, all the Excel files, bookkeeping, and things that I can't focus on. And and God had prepared us. We have always worked together. It's been really interesting. We met at the same business, and we were working together then. And then through there, we worked at the same ministry, and then we were working on my general contracting business together, and then Banners for Freedom. So we already had that relationship where we could work with each other throughout the day and bounce off one another. Oh, you froze. Okay, I guess we're good. We're back. So God is always preparing you for what He is calling you to do, even though you don't know what you're being called to do, and you don't know what you're being prepared for. But you have to just know and have that faith that he's working all these things together for your good. Everything that you're doing today, and you'll look back, you go, wow, I never knew that thing, that particular year, he was preparing me for this mission that he's called me to today. It's absolutely incredible.
It is.
It is incredible. And not only that, Jamie, you were homeschooling, right?
Yeah.
So you were able to take your children everywhere.
Yes. It was very nice, let them explore the country. It's not just us that's Banners for Freedom. Our family is included in all of that. They even have their own opinion about, all the different stuff that's going on in the world, and, them hearing at events the different adults speaking and, talking about, their kids going to university and coming back woke and being, just so heartbroken and upset about it. I don't think either one of my children want to go to a university now. Like
Right.
they understand what's going on. Being 10 and 12 years old, they understand our culture more than most adults do.
Right.
And I'm glad to have been able to give them that experience in the last couple of years.
Well, it's awesome. And
While
you're
we were-
right. I'm sorry, Robert, go ahead.
While we were doing Banners for Freedom, we're traveling around the U.S., speaking at conferences and doing different things. And it was 2022 in Appleton, Ohio. We were at this church service. We were going to hold this court of heaven that evening, and with another group of people. And I was actually in the sanctuary. It was empty. I was editing a Times Square ad that I was getting ready to send to New York, and this lady was praying up in front of this altar the entire time I was sitting in there. And I got done, and she points at me and she goes, "Sir, you come here. I've got a word for you." It's like, okay, all right. So I kind of snuck over there, and she laid hands on me and started prophesying over me. I mean, it was intense. It was one of those you'll never forget. It wasn't just a short, word. It was, it went on for 10, 15 minutes. And I mean, I was on my knees. I was weeping. Lord was reading my mail. Jamie, she's in another room. She gets prompted by the Spirit to go find her husband. She finds me in the sanctuary and with this other woman, and she said, "What's going on in here?" And this lady's like, "I got a word for you." It's just prophesying. And we never met this woman. She didn't know who we were. It was an incredible word. A lot was said, but there were two things that stood out. One is she said, "I see you putting up banners from the East Coast to the West, from the East to the West," and she didn't know we were Banners for Freedom.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
She didn't know who we were. She was from another state. She actually came
Yeah.
up there just to pray at this church that day, and she left even before that service took place that evening.
Yeah.
It was really odd. So when she said that, I was listening, right? And then Lord spoke through her and said, I see you and your family traveling around the United States doing a tour. And we thought, no, that's not right. That she must have heard wrong or misspoke, or the Lord's confused. I don't know what's going on, but a tour, no, that's not right. And so we kind of put that in the back shelf, and several months went on, and people kept coming up to us saying, "Hey, when are you going to start your tour?" We're like, "Tour for what?" We put up billboard ads. Like, it's not really touring kind of material, and we don't know what we do. We don't have the funds to go on a tour. It doesn't make any sense, right? So it was the beginning of last year, 2023. It got so frequent. People kept coming up to us and talking about this tour, different random people. We felt that if we didn't plan something, we're going to be disobedient. We really felt the Lord was like, "Hey, guys, I want you to do a tour," but we didn't know what that meant. So we sat down. We said, "Okay, all right, what's going on? If we do a tour, where are we going to go? What's it going to be called? What's our mission? What's the purpose? How's it going to be funded?" So we're talking about all these things, and we thought, if we, one of the things that we feel like was lacking during our travels, speaking at these conferences, is being able to engage with the people and spend time with them and really get to know them and share testimonies. It was just, real quick and kind of chaotic, and you're just moving around. You have these short conversations, and then you got to fly out, right? So why don't we just go and create opportunities for the remnant to gather together and actually have some quality time. We'll post up for a week in each city. We'll have dinner at this location this night. We'll go to a rodeo. We'll go to, go play mini golf, or we'll go down to the lake and rent a pavilion down there and just hang out, fellowship. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I think that's a good idea. What do you think, Lord?" And then I'm like, "Well, where would we go?" "Well, babe, where are we going?" She's like, I got this. We met a lot of people along our travels, and I'll give you some cities, some possibilities of where we could go. So she did, in an Excel file, and then request a map so that she could see what the route looked like. So I put all that together and make this map, and I go and I show her, and she looks at it, she goes, "Oh, you drew a fish. How cute." And I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, I couldn't have drawn a better fish, right? It started out in Texas, went to the East Coast, went, it made the tail fin, then came around and made the dorsal fin, and then, you know, made the front of the fish, and then made the little pectoral fin, you know, right there on the side in the wrap up. I mean, it was clear as day. And when we saw that, we're like, okay, that's a sign that we're on the right track and we're supposed to do this. I mean, I couldn't have drawn a fish like that if I tried. So we're like, okay, when are we going to launch this? You know, what date? When would be appropriate? Like, well, we're going to be in Miami at the Reawaken American Tour Conference in May, and, you know, 2 weeks, you know, give us 2 weeks to get back from that, kind of get things situated. So maybe May 27th. Yeah, May 27th. So we threw that down on the map. And, oh, well, we're going to wrap up, you know, probably around, you know, October in Colorado Springs. You know, we're thinking about going a little bit further in some other states, but like, no, we kind of pulled that back. Like, we'll end it in Colorado, you know, right at the beginning of October. You know, a couple days or weeks went on. We're like, you know, I wonder when the day of Pentecost is coming up this year. We've been looking into the feast days quite a bit since 2020 and trying to observe them. And we pulled up the calendar, and sure enough, the day of Pentecost fell on May 27th, the day that we were planning to launch this tour. We're like, oh, that's the day the Spirit was first poured out, right? That's a pretty significant day. And we're like, I feel like the Lord's like, oh, you like that? Check out the date where y'all ended. So we go and pull up. It's like September 29th through October 7th or something like that. That is literally the entire week of the Feast of Tabernacles. So from the day of Pentecost, 4-month tour all the way around the United States, wrapping up in Colorado Springs for a week of the Feast of Tabernacles with just the most amazing people. You know, Trey Smith, God in a nutshell. He happened to live in Colorado Springs. He came out. We had a great time with him. A whole bunch of, you know, just amazing personalities showed up all along the way. Sometimes it was 2 or 3 people would show up for dinner at a random restaurant in a random city in a random state. And then other times, you know, there'd be, you know, a couple hundred people would show up for something. And it was always the right people at the right time. And, you know, God showed up all along the way. We didn't have any funds to do this. You know, we literally threw everything in our box trailer. We didn't know how we were going to pay for any of this. And we just went because we knew he called us to go. There are so many confirmations, and like, okay, Lord, this is going to be a testimony on how you're going to provide when you call somebody. And we could spend an entire show talking about the testimonies on how God showed up and the miracles that took place all along the way, and how he completely provided. It turned into baptisms. You know, we weren't planning on that. We kind of were, you know, secretly like, man, it'd be awesome if this turned into a revival, you know?
Yeah.
And then sure enough, Bloomington, Illinois, first family. And then that created a chain reaction. So 170 baptisms later. And we actually went on past 4 months. That was the fish tour, but there were so many people that contacted us wanting to get baptized. I couldn't make it. They said, hey, will you come, you know, or are you going to be in this area or whatever? We're like, you know what? We can't stop. We got to go to these people. So we created part 2, which was called The Net. All right. So we had the fish tour, and now we got the net.
I love it.
We literally just used that time period, those next couple months, and just went directly to those people that were wanting to get baptized, drove straight to their house or to their city, baptized them, and then moved on and went to the next place and did a whole loop around the eastern part of the United States, and then another loop around the western part. And it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
The net tour, I think the longest we stayed in each city was 4 days. So, or it was less than that in
Usually
almost every single
night.
One of them. There was only 2 places that we stayed in for 4 days.
Wow.
So Lord always got something going on, Catherine. And, you know, we get back from that, and it was the end of 2023, beginning of this year. You know, I'm sitting there, our slate's clean, and we don't know what's happening in 2024. Like, Lord, what do you got planned? Like, you've been keeping us pretty busy. I'm sure that you got something, you know, you're wanting us to be involved in. But we just took a couple weeks off and took care of some much needed work here at the homestead that we've been neglecting. And I get a phone call from a gentleman, a friend of mine, who actually only met twice at two of these Reawaken conferences. And he said the Holy Spirit came upon him, and when he was doing a podcast, and out of his mouth came convoy February 3rd, like a border convoy. And he said,
Okay.
he was talking to Kim Yeater, and he said he felt prompted to call me to help out with this convoy and to be part of the Texas organization of the rallies and things of that sort. And but he calls me up and he's talking about this border convoy. It was the last thing on my mind, right? I'm like, convoy? Like, I know nothing about convoys. You know, I jumped in one for, I think, one day, the People's Convoy or something in Oklahoma. And, you know, I put up some billboards for it, but I don't know how to organize a convoy or you know, these rallies. I'm like, Lord, I don't know about this. Is this something you want me to do? And it was just immediate. He just starts kind of slapping me upside the head. He's like, hey, don't you realize I have you scheduled down in that area of Texas that entire week, and you're completely freed up now for that? I'm like, okay, yeah. And you know Doc Pete Chambers, and he's the border guy, you know, doing all the work down there, and he's a good friend of yours. Yeah. And Andrew Molinex, he's shooting a documentary at the border, your good friend, and he shot, you know, the first landing event and some other, like, yeah. And there were so many different things. So I started making phone calls, and everything just fell into place. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll do it. So next thing I know, we're organizing the convoy from Virginia Beach. And that was absolutely fascinating because Mark Anthony, the gentleman who called me about this originally, said, I feel like it's supposed to start in Virginia. The first person who came to mind was Craig Hudgens, because he's got a big giant RV, fully wrapped, God and Country, you know. And I was like, well, he's in Virginia Beach, and he'd been itching to be involved in some sort of tour or some sort of movement, right? Ever since First Landing, when we recovenanted this nation back to God on April 26th last year. You can learn more about that at firstlanding1607.com. And so I call him up. He's like, yep, absolutely, I'm in. He goes, you don't understand. He's like, this is what we've been waiting on since the First Landing event. And the fact that this border convoy, this Take Our Border Back convoy, which was really a revival. It was a moment of repentance and turning back to God. Led right out of Virginia Beach, where we recovenanted this nation back to God.
That's right. The first landing there. Okay.
And so that came all the way down through Florida and into Texas, and we had a rally in Dripping Spring, and then a second main rally down in Eagle Pass, right there in the heart of all the controversy of border issues coming into Texas. And the Lord breathed on the whole thing, because once again, just like the billboards, there's no way we could have pulled anything like that off. No. Just like the Remnant Tour, there's no way, if it wasn't for God. And he put the right people in front of me every time I needed help. I needed assistance. I needed whatever I needed. He provided to make that happen. And it's just another testimony on, you know, if God's calling you to do something, you don't have to be qualified, because he's going to, he's going to make it happen. And that's the way he gets all the glory. And all you got to do is be faithful and be diligent.
And, you know, Eagle Pass is what the first city, I guess, in the United States where the eclipse started coming through this past week. So that's interesting.
That is very, very interesting, because the whole world's focus was on Eagle Pass for the past several months. You know, that's another thing, is when this convoy originally came to Mark Anthony and we started planning on it, and we're, you know, having this steering committee, you know, meetings on how we're going to organize all this. It was a week into that is when Governor Abbott announced he was sending the National Guard down to, out of all places, Eagle Pass. We're like, get out of here, right? And so now that is looking at Eagle Pass, the very location that we're taking this convoy down to. So that was orchestrated by God, right? Well, then we do all that, and we're like, sure enough, this eclipse is entering into the United States directly over Eagle Pass from Mexico, right over Eagle Pass, straight up to the northeast corner of our state. And there's a lot to talk about here with the eclipse.
Yeah.
You know, it's fascinating. So it comes into Eagle Pass, right? But it also is going through 7 Ninevehs. But before it goes through the Ninevehs, it goes over Jonah, Texas. and then Nineveh, Texas. And right, so Jonah was the man that God said, "Hey, I want you to go to Nineveh and tell them they need to repent." He's like, "Absolutely not. I'm not doing that. No way.
Yeah.
Are you getting me to go to Nineveh to tell these guys to turn toward God?" And he runs from God. And he gets on a ship and takes off, and he gets swallowed in a big fish and spit out on the shore 3 days later. He's like, "Okay, I'll go. I'll do it." Well, that town, the first town is Jonah, and then Nineveh, and then the rest of them are Ninevehs. Absolutely incredible how God orchestrates that.
Yeah.
You know, that's a 2024 one that just took place, but the 2017 one that went over 7 Salems, right?
Yeah.
And the Salems is the original, name for Jerusalem. Right, still has Salem in there, and so we're God is really highlighting these eclipses. And what does he say? It's a Genesis 1:14. All right, he says, "And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons," right? And for days and years. Signs, well, sign is what an omen. It's a warning, if you will. And the seasons, it's not really translated properly into the English, because the Hebrew word for that season is festivals, or the appointed times, the Moedim. And so we're looking at these events, these celestial events, for signs and to align with his festivals. So as we look at these eclipses that have taken place from 2017 to 2023 one that happened back in was it October, and then this current one that just took place on Monday. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard about all this. Everyone has been watching everything that they can get their hands on regarding this eclipse. This is like the most watched. It has more attention than any eclipse that I've ever been aware of.
Yeah.
But it makes the Aleph, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it makes the Aleph, which is the original Paleo Hebrew letter, for sovereignty. For God, for Creator. It's like he literally, signed his sovereignty across the United States. And in fact, that's going over the Salems, and that's going over the Ninevehs, and then the Jonahs, and the time periods, all the sevens. You got 2017, and 7 years later, we have this 2024 eclipse, and there's the 77 cycles, and the last time that we've had an eclipse go directly over the U.S. Was in 1776, right?
Really? That part I didn't know. I mean, I've heard all this other stuff, but I didn't realize that. Yeah.
The one in 2017, that was an eclipse that went only over the continental United States, right? It went over no other country, just over the United States.
And I watched that one. Yeah.
Yep. That came right near you. That type of eclipse that only went over the United States, that the last time that's happened was in 1776 when our country was founded.
Wow.
In 2017, when Trump was elected, where he's talking about restoring the republic back to the people, right? Dissolving the corporation and all that. Really interesting. And it was the Hebrew year 5777. I mean, there's just
tell us what that means for people who don't understand. I don't normally follow all of that.
Yeah, well, it's just the sevens, right?
Okay.
You're right.
Okay.
I mean, it's just another, 777, right?
Okay.
God's number.
Okay.
It's incredible that it goes over Little Egypt, like right where these two cross. Okay.
That's where it crosses.
Yes, the 2017 to 2024 goes over a town called Little Egypt, Lake Egypt, Devil's Lake, Jacob, Illinois. It's all right there. Giant National Park. It's like it's being highlighted for, and people, you can write this off, or you can try to see the message that God is trying to communicate here. What is he speaking to us about? Because he uses numbers. All right, he's a God of numerology. If anybody hadn't noticed, like, he loves his numbers. He created the numbers. He created math and formulas.
Well, yeah, he created them.
That's right. He
need
created
to pay attention. Mm-hmm.
the celestial bodies. He knew when these people were going to name these towns, what they were going to name them, and where these paths were going to, like, all this is orchestrated in a way that only God could do that. And this particular eclipse that just came over on Monday, April 8th, happened to be the first of Nisan. And the first of Nisan, that's the first day of the first month of the Hebrew calendar. Mm-hmm. So it was literally the new year, the first day of the Hebrew calendar that this came across. That's all very significant. That's also the day that the tabernacle was first erected in the Exodus, when the Hebrews, when they left Egypt and went out to the wilderness. Moses was commissioned to build the tabernacle. It was erected on the first of Nisan, the first day, the first month of the Hebrew year. So there's.
It's too much to be coincidence, right?
It's way too much. You can go on and on and on, but when you've got CERN firing up the Large Hadron Collider over there in Switzerland after 3 years of being shut down for improvements, on that same day, on the first of Nisan, when you've got NASA firing 3 rockets into the solar eclipse.
How crazy is that?
Yes, and they name it, I don't know how to pronounce it, APEP, right?
But it's a serpent deity that it was a nemesis of, or opposer of Ra.
The nemesis of Ra. Yeah.
Which is the sun god.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are they doing? They've got a plan. They've got their own purpose, and I think they know their time is short.
Yeah. Do you feel, with all of this going on, I know how I have felt, but do you feel like you're in the middle of all of this pagan pageantry going on, and we're just looking at it going, what are you doing? Either you cannot beat God, you cannot, make him do anything. And you're not going to prompt him, if he wants the veil to be opened between atmospheres, he will open it. You don't get to do that. And so I'm just sitting back. So yeah, do you feel that way? I have. I've just been watching this nonsense.
Absolutely, and it's gearing up. I mean, it's full throttle right now. Everywhere you look, it's disgusting. When you're scrolling through social media and you see what these, what do you call them? You're not necessarily influencers, but the, different musicians and, music artists and all these
stars.
The stars, right? The stars. Why are they called stars, right?
I don't know. I've always wondered that.
Well, I have a feeling it's because, if you study what happened back in Genesis 6:1, where the fallen angels came down and found the daughters of men if they were fair, right, and bore children unto them, the Nephilim, the giants, right.
Right.
You know, there's stories that, you know, after the flood, that those fallen angels were punished, and they were sent into the stars as prisons, and they were sent into the earth as prisons, and they're locked up. So, you know, are these stars trying to be like the fallen angels that are imprisoned in the stars? Are they trying to be like the fallen ones that came down, you know, with Satan? I have a good feeling that that might be the case. You know,
well, whatever it is, it's idolatry for anyone to be looking at them and worshiping them instead of God. And that has always bothered me. It's like celebrities. And it has really, what it has done is it has made me a bit of a rebel. And I probably do the wrong thing and just kind of discount people like that. And I literally avoid them. If I'm in a place where there's someone who's famous comes through, I completely ignore it.
Yes.
And that's probably not a very nice thing to do to the people. But that's just been my knee-jerk reaction. Like, you know, who are you? You're human. And you have the same bodily functions that everyone else does. So that has always been my deal with that.
Well, and that's exactly what the fallen angels wanted too. They wanted man to worship them.
I was going to say a good example of that is the first landing. When we were up there in Virginia Beach last year, our event was on Thursday or Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah. And that weekend following, they were planning a Pharrell concert, a huge, massive concert.
Something
and
in the
it
water.
was like a 3-day concert called Something in the Water. And if you look at all the imagery, I mean, it's space aliens and I don't know, sucking like slug people up from the ground and like these Saturn planets and stuff, but it's all kind of water related. It's very strange. Let's just say strange and weird. Something out of Hollywood. But the whole event, all 3 days got messed up for them. The first day got shut down due to like high winds and rain. The second day it got flooded out. They started late. The third day, a tornado came and shut it down. And, you know, I don't think there was any deaths from that, but it was like our event was supposed to have rain and we had the most gorgeous day out there out at the cross and perfect. Beautiful. And then, you know, it was beautiful at the beach at the Delta Hotel. And it like the Lord gave us the perfect, beautiful day to recovenant ourselves back to him.
Yeah.
And the Illuminati satanic concert gets completely shut down.
Yeah. That was interesting, wasn't it?
And the path of the tornado
went
right through and directly towards that cross and lifted up and came back down on the other side of it. Like,
nothing happened to it. That's right. That's right. To think we were just there. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. God has just been blessing these efforts to really honor him and bring this country back around. And I love the name of your tour, you know, the Remnant Revolution, because it shows that there's just going to be a remnant. And yeah, not everyone understands what's going on. In fact, believe it or not, you all, because I know that you are around very awake people, but there are so many people that I happen to know personally that don't even want to admit that bioweapons exist. And there is no way our government would have a hand in it. And there's nothing wrong with voting machines. and so on and so forth. That's how fast asleep they are. In fact, they get angry if you bring anything up. So it's just, I can't, at this point, I do ask God, how much should I say or not say? Because really, we've got to move on. Time is short. We need to know how to prepare for our families, just to survive for what's coming. And beyond that, I don't know what else to do with the information that we have. It's just, I don't know whether it's willful blindness or just complete, absolute ignorance at this point. Have you seen any of that? I know you've traveled and people come to you because they're awake and they know their time is short. And like you said, all these baptisms, I love hearing that because they realize I've got to get right with God. I have to. I've got to focus on Jesus, my relationship, and then God takes it from there. He shows them what they need to do.
You know, you bring up several good points there, and you open up a lot of conversation with all of that. You know, everyone's wondering what do we do? Like, how do we deal with this? How do we fix it? Right? You know, yes, there's willful blindness going on. There's ignorance, but there's also like a spell that's been cast upon people, and some of that we brought on to ourselves because we have mingled ourselves with so much paganism in our life. We can't even see truth anymore, and we can't hear the voice of God, and we can't. You know, I know that there was a time in my life where I experienced that to the fullness. And, you know, it wasn't until I started shedding some of this tradition off of me that I grew up with, and really trying to align, you know, with the Lord in the way that, you know, He asked us to, right? Not the way that the Roman Catholic Church has asked us to, if you will. And you know, this point, you know, this is a tough one for some people. You know, it's a little tough for me in the beginning, but I was so hungry just to want to know the truth. I really didn't care. I was ready to make a change at any cost. But you know, God is always asking His people. If you look throughout history, that the constant theme is turn back to me, turn back to my ways and my days. You have mingled yourself with the pagans. You need to remove that, because I'm a jealous God. I'm not going to share, you know, myself with anybody else. Come back to me, right? And what does that mean, right? Well, you know, on this Remnant Revolution tour, you know, this wasn't a big churchy thing. This wasn't an organized denominational thing. And I think what's happened over the years is it's become institutionalized in some aspects. And, you know, the enemy, I mean, what's the enemy going to do? He's going to want to take the true thing, and he's going to want to make a counterfeit of it and get you to take the counterfeit, right? And I feel like that's exactly what he's done, going all the way back to the Council of Nicaea, 325 AD. When, you know, the pagan Roman Emperor Constantine created the first church and changed Christianity, or created Christianity, created that term and created all the doctrines that we hold on to today, thinking that, you know, these are the things that is truth, and not going back to what does the Bible say? What does,
right?
Well, you know, what happened during the book of Acts? What was taking place, you know, during that time? What did the early church do and not do? You know,
right.
Did the early church, you know, did they, you know, bring in bunnies and eggs into their homes? Did they adorn, you know, trees with silver and gold? Did they do these things that we do today and call them good and say, well, I'm still worshiping God? even though I'm bringing in these pagan things like Ishtar, and I'm bringing in these, the phallic symbol of Nimrod, and I'm adorning making it into an idol, but I'm thinking about you, Lord. I mean, isn't that what happened, during the Exodus when they built this golden calf, and they're like, oh, we're thinking about you. He wasn't very happy about that. And I don't think he's very happy about that right now. And I think we've, forgive me, but I think we have, just traded, all of our,
inheritance.
We've given away our inheritance. That's exactly what we've done for not pleasure, but the ability to do what everybody else is doing for comfort, right? What is our family doing? What are our friends doing? We want to get along. We want to be a part of what they're doing. We want to be a part of what our church is doing. So we're going to compromise, and we're going to continue to do these things, but we're going to call them good. And I don't think the Lord is happy about that. I really don't think he is. And I think this is, part of this judgment that we're seeing, that we're expecting, right? This solar eclipse, this Jonah, Nineveh, repent, turn. What was he doing? He was telling them to come out of her, my people.
Yeah.
He was saying, put those things aside, come back to me, return to me, to my ways, to my days.
That's right.
Not some weird Jewish stuff. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about God's ways, right? The Hebrews were not Jews. Israel were not just Jews. Jews is one tribe of 12. There's 12 other tribes. All of that is Israel, right? And there's so much more. We are Israel. We are the house of Israel, and re-engrafted in, right? When he came and restored that covenant, right? Because he, issued the northern tribes, the house of Israel, a certificate of divorce. He issued that to them because they went and mingled themselves with the pagans. And because he issued that certificate of divorce, there was no way to break that. There's no way to go back from that until, according to the law, the husband dies, and then the woman is released from that. So what happened? God came down in the form of a man in flesh, and what did he do? He died. And then he came back to life. Remember, Jesus said, I didn't come to the Jews, I came to the house of Israel to restore covenant. He came to remarry him. He's like, hey, now you can remarry me. Now you can become my bride once again and be restored, because I died. That curse is broke. That certificate of divorce is null and void. Now you can come back into covenant. Like that's such an amazing thing, but we can't do that while we're still holding on to Babylon. So I'm really concerned, because when judgment comes, oftentimes it comes to, quote unquote, the church, right? That's who he's talking to. When we see these signs, he's talking to his people, and he's saying, hey,
people wouldn't understand.
Right.
They wouldn't. So I didn't mean to get off on all of that, but
no, and
add something to that is that I think there's a disconnect too. A lot of mainstream Christianity, they're like all New Testament, and they only preach out of the New Testament. And there's a guy that we listen to. It's like trying to read the New Testament. It's like trying to read something in it's like black and white, and the Old Testament just makes the New Testament in full color.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a disconnect too, because you've got the Exodus, which happens way back in the beginning of the Old Testament, and there's that talk of the 12 tribes and Israel and where they go. Well, a lot of people don't know that they scattered out after, being in the coming to the promised land and things like that, and they continued to scatter out.
Yeah.
Well, if you you wouldn't know that if you only study the New Testament. Well,
Right.
then you go to my favorite book of the Bible, James. In the first sentence, it says, "This I'm James, bondservant of Jesus, half brother of." I just drew a blank on who his brother was. Oh my goodness, James is half brother of. Come on, Catherine.
He's half brother of Jesus, but he's also brothers with Judas.
Yes.
Or Jude, not Judas, Jude.
Jude. And then, but it says at the beginning of it, he's talking to the 12 tribes scattered out amongst everybody.
Yeah.
So you got a message that one of the apostles is writing to the 12 tribes. Where are those 12? Or it says 12 tribes, but it's saying he's writing this letter to the 12 tribes scattered among.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where did those 12 tribes go to?
All
They
over.
were scattered all over the place. So if the tribes aren't still in existence, why is the book of James in the Bible in the first place? And he's talking to all of us. And I think that there's a lot of disconnect too when we don't study the Old Testament to know who and where these people are.
And even that's misleading. Old Testament and New Testament, like it's one testament.
Right.
I want people to be able to follow you all, and we've run out of time, but I want people to find you and find what you're doing so maybe they can follow you or catch up with you at some point.
Sure.
So
Sure.
can you tell us where they can find you?
Yeah, well, the billboards is at banners4freedom.com. Kind of shows a little bit what we've done and where the banner's been located and some of our journey. And Remnant Revolution Tour, you can see there's a bunch of videos of us traveling around and doing baptisms. You can find that at remnantrevolutiontour.com. I think it's down there in the lower third there. But
yes, and I'm going to put it in the notes too. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just see that we're running out of time. We've run out of time, but
yes.
I think you all are amazing, and you know that. And so thank you for spending some time here and talking to everybody who's going to watch this.
We enjoyed seeing you again. Enjoyed being on.
I know. It's really
hopefully
nice.
we'll make it out to First Landing here in the next couple of weeks, Lord willing.
We'll see. We'll see. Well, God bless you both. Thank you.
God bless you. Take care.
Thank you, Catherine.
Bye-bye.